heart of this people is grown gross, and with their ears they have been dull of hearing, and their eyes they have shut, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and be converted, and I should heal them. But blessed are your eyes, because they see, and your ears, because they hear.
Welcome to Analog Catholic. My name is Benjamin.
Wow, we're doing full names today.
Yeah, I just people have
Okay.
been curious. I've been getting a lot of
What Ben's short for?
yeah.
My name's Robert.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, a
that
lot of
was
people thought it was Robney, but it's not Robney, it's actually Robert.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, common mistake. So today, how are you doing today, Robert?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well.
That's good to hear. Happy to hear that. Um, Thanks for asking how I'm doing. Today we will be talking about video games.
I love games.
I know. That's why
I
we're
f
talking about it.
we're gonna do video games. I feel like there should be an episode for board games because board game culture in the Catholic world is pretty big, and we might touch on it in arguments about video games. But that's just a thought I've let escape into the mic that probably should have been not into the mic that's recording.
That's a
That's
good
okay.
idea though, because then people come back. They're
Yeah,
like
that's
when
right.
they got to subscribe. Like when they're
That's
gonna
right.
drop that board game episode.
Subs- Everybody wants to talk about board games.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, today's topic is gaming, particularly video gaming, not tabletop gaming or board gaming, which are other fun things to do because games are fun and a glimpse into the joy of heaven. Uh, the recreation in gaming is I don't have this fully fleshed out idea yet, so I'm not going to actually go down that road. Yeah, let's go into gaming. I will preface this with I play video games. Ben does not play video games. So that's the perspective we're each going to be providing to this. Um, I think, Ben, you should start with your thoughts on video games, and then I'll share my thoughts on video games, and then you sort of give me your arguments that you have. I actually don't know if you're pro or con. I have a feeling you're con because you don't play video games. But we'll go down that path, and then we'll do, and I'll make arguments against your arguments, and that's how we'll go about this.
Uh, I'm sorry to report, Robert. I'm not particularly con, but
Oh,
we'll follow the structure. We'll see what
all
happens.
right, yeah, we'll see what
Uh,
happens. You can tell we
I
plan these episodes ahead of time.
Yeah, we really put a lot of thought into this.
Yeah.
I This is the only time we talk is on the podcast.
There's
It's
a running joke that with our
it's
friend group
true,
that Ben and I only talk on the podcast, but that's more than he talks with the other friends in the friend group. So
but it's also super clear we haven't talked about this episode beforehand.
yeah,
Um, I played video games as a child, somewhat. My grandmother had a PlayStation 2.
your
I guess
grandmother
we
had a
did. I
PlayStation
guess we
too.
did too. I think we both did.
Oh, okay.
Um, but I think we played more PlayStation 2 at her house. This is true because we would bring the games back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, it play games. I think I'd like my video game usage was limited by my parents as a child. Well, not at
Mm-hmm.
my grandmother's house, do whatever you want.
Yeah,
That's probably why
yeah.
I was more of
The memories
that makes sense.
tied to her. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I enjoyed it as a child quite a bit. Um, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it.
Mhm.
I think, like all things for children, like it makes sense that the parents kind of have to moderate for their children, right? Like
Of
children would
course.
eat lots of cake if their parents didn't tell them to stop eating cake. So like same thing with video games. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with video games. Yeah, definitely not inherently wrong. When it comes to like violent video games and stuff, I'm open to a conversation about it, but there's a lot of violence in the world. So I think if you're the type of person that is going to say we shouldn't have violent video games, there's a lot of other things you're going to have to say we shouldn't have to be consistent.
Mm,
But I am open to the thought that there should be less violence in video games.
I see. So
I
you're going the violence route. Okay.
well, that's I'm just listing all my thoughts.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Uh, I I do not play video games as an adult particularly. I have tried. Um, I get bored too easily, I think, with them.
Mm,
I the most interested I got into video games as an adult was Spyro, I think they had a trilogy originally.
yeah.
It's the little purple dragon.
Yes.
And that was like the game I played at my grandmother's house when I was a kid, and they released it or whatever, so you could get it on a computer. And I like downloaded that trilogy, and I think I played through all of it. I think I did the same thing. Well, no, I played through Lego Star Wars with a friend of mine, our mutual friend of ours.
Hmm.
And that was like another time where I was like kind of into it. Um, and both of those things is just like it's the nostalgia. Like I've gotten other video games on my computer that I didn't play as a child that are like other video, and I'm just like I can't. I'm not interested. So it's purely a nostalgia thing for me, I think. I have not been able to be hooked onto anything else,
Mm,
which I do think, yeah, I think video games are comparable to television in a lot of ways,
yeah.
right? Like, so again, it's like if people are going to make argument against violent video games, like we got to make arguments against violent television. I think the difference that people will point to in that instance is, well, like in the video game, like you're pulling the trigger, right? Like when you're killing somebody, which is like kind of true, right? Like that's what's happening is like you're actively shooting people in a video game.
Yeah.
But like TV is just as immersive. Like I see that there is something of a difference there. Um, I had another thought. I guess a similar thing of like moderation with like video games. It's like, well, again, moderation with television as well. I think a difference that'll be pointed out is like, well, and I think it's not totally fair, but like if I were to sit down and play video games, like it would have like I would do it without my wife, right?
Hmm.
So it would be sort of like a solo activity, though. Like there's so many games that you could play with spouses or with friends. So like it's not necessarily it doesn't have to be that. I think it's just again in my instance, I'm not like well, I guess if I really wanted to, I could play video games with you. Um,
We
I
have
would
a
have to.
friend that's been trying to push a Minecraft server so that all
Does
of
he
us can play.
play?
He
This is not
does.
he does
He
okay.
he does. He does.
See, I'm interested. Like Minecraft interests me, but again, the times I've played it, I just get so bored because it's like you gotta like cut down the tree to get the wood, and it just takes forever. And then it's like, why am I doing this? Uh, I think I don't have the like I have very little like discipline for um like investing in the future in my actual real life that I struggle with it in video games. Like unless I'm like again, it's the nostalgia factor. Unless there's like
Yeah,
this nostalgia element,
the pull to it. I get
yeah,
it.
I'm like I can't. How many trees do I have to cut down to build a house?
A lot. A lot. I yeah. I am in a Minecraft server with a different group of friends, and we played together for like a month. We pooled together the money to buy a year's worth for the server. Um,
Oh, it costs money to do.
yeah,
Oh,
to do well, if you do the old school way on the Java PC edition, no. But if you do the streamlined, hosted by Microsoft way, it costs a few bucks a month. But I mean, like between the three of us split, I think it costs like $12 a person for the whole year. But we did that. We did that, and then we played a month, and then we haven't played in like 2 months because at the end of the day, yeah, I put an hour into the game, and it's just what do you do for the hour? And it's I cut down trees and mine stone, you know.
yeah.
So there's a little
I've
bit. It's tiresome at the yeah at some point.
yeah. I have my final thought before I hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
Um, I think one of the things. that we've talked about before on the podcast is this concept that I think we've invented of like passive recreation versus active recreation. So like
Yeah,
TV would be more like watching TV would be more passive than reading a
yeah,
book because reading a book you're kind of engaging like your mind to like actually read the words, but then you're also like using your imagination to kind of like present to your thoughts what's happening.
yeah,
Um to like translate the words into like a scene versus watching TV it's just you're staring at it, it's happening in front of you.
yeah.
Video games you're also staring at it, it's happening in front of you, but there is an active element to it. So like there's something there that's like it's more participatory. So I do think there's something interesting there of again, like there's other differences, but to me it seems like it is a better form of recreation in some ways than television
Mm.
because you are like using your brain, you are engaging with it, instead of it just kind of like happening to you like television does.
Okay, but you're more pro than I thought you'd be, which is fine. This didn't need to be a debate. Um, but yeah, my thoughts are I grew up playing video games for basically almost all of my life. I think I started playing games when I was like 5 because my cousins had a Game Boys, not even the Game Boy Color, just Game Boy. And when I would visit them, I'd play. And at some point, I played this game called Pokemon Red, and I was lost immediately. That was it. That was it for me. The gateway drug for video games for me was Pokemon Red. And I have been playing games ever since. So that game came out in the US, I think in 98. I think I played it for the first time in 99. Or was it 99 in the US? I don't remember. Regardless, I've been playing games for a very long time. And it's been reflecting back on it, it's been wild. I really never had strong supervision in terms of like time spent on video games. Even though I was like 5 when I kind of started playing, I still had, I think, a good, like, healthy balance between like doing things that weren't video games and video games up until 8th grade, maybe freshman year of high school. And then it was just like a total collapse into my only hobby was video games. Um, so there's a little bit of this for a while, it was fine, and then it became like really bad. And then I stopped playing for a while too, like after high school. I didn't really play video games a lot, very occasionally. It became a very social thing for me. So this is the big thing that I'm probably going to emphasize on my side is video gaming became a very social aspect. It was social in high school because I was playing with my friends most of the time. We were talking. But like I was saying, it was basically like the only thing any of us ever did. So it was just like too much of that. But at some point, and even now when I play and I'm playing with friends, it's like a very intentional, okay, we're gonna set aside, a couple hours this evening to play together this week. Um, so it's not just, every day we get home from work and we just pop it on and play. I mean, I can't do that anymore. I mean, I have a wife and a child on the way, so I have greater obligations nowadays definitely than I did in high school. So that's kind of an impossibility. But still, it's a very intentional social hobby. So for some of my argument, this is a way for me and a couple of friends of mine from high school. We're still in touch. There's a couple of years we weren't in touch, but we reconnected, and we live far apart from each other. The closest one that lives near me is an hour and a half away. The other one lives down several states south. Uh, so the only way to really socialize to any degree is a phone call or video games. But a video game is like it's essentially a phone call, but we're just doing something together. Because that's the point. It's not like we're just purely focused on the game. The game's more of an excuse to call. But I wanted to touch on what you said about the difference between like watching television and playing video games. And this is probably one of the bigger core arguments I was going to make because if you ever really hear any sort of opposition to television or movies nowadays, even in the Catholic context, it's almost exclusively geared towards excessive violence or nudity, and then just like a very lukewarm, hey, just be moderate with your usage, and it just kind of stays there. And that's like as far as any kind of critique goes that at least I've seen for your average. And when I mean average Catholic, I don't mean like literally your average Catholic who does not care at all about any of this stuff, but just like the average Catholic who practices and actually cares. But when it comes to video games, it's almost like hostility towards video games. There's a couple reasons I think for that. The first one is video games, they're like kid coded. The thought is like children play video games. So if you've hit maturity, like it's a sign of immaturity to still be playing games. I think there's definitely some argument there. I think there's some merit to that argument because you very well can use video games as like a tool to retain childishness, right? Christ calls us to be childlike, but there's a difference between being childlike and being childish. And I believe our younger generation, starting with millennials and definitely Gen Z, and it looks like Gen Alpha on its way, uh, there's this desire to just refuse to grow up. And I think one of the signs or maybe symptoms, whatever the technical differences are between the two, of that childishness is like this excessive consumption of media, which looks like video games. It's other things too. It's movies and television, but video games again, that's the hobby that's been marked as childish, and so that's the one that's really emphasized. And it also just truly is the bigger one because I think culturally, for millennials and Gen Z, video games are a greater cultural staple in their life than television was or movies were. Um, so we have this greater emphasis on it's childish to play video games because when video games really took off and were popular, millennials were children, and Gen Z, obviously everyone ages up here, but it really took off during the childhood of millennials. So it's just very childishly coded. But my big argument is kind of what you were saying. When you watch movies and you watch television, you can watch really good movies and really good television that aren't just artistically shot, acted well, maybe the score is good, the cinematography is good. So you have this audio visual piece of artistic medium that does uplift the soul or that does generate thought. I don't I would generate like philosophical ideals and morals, right? They present a moral. But you're right that it's completely passive. You're just a witness to it. You're a bystander. You don't act on it. You don't act within it. Um, you can only just sort of see what's unfolding before you, and then afterwards, usually through interior like thinking or dialogue with others, you might be able to dig a little bit deeper into some of those philosophical and moral truths that appear in it. Whereas with video games, you're an active participant. You are controlling you're controlling a train on a track, right? Because you can't literally do whatever you want. Video games are restricted to the function of the game itself. Um, but there's a more active participation, and you can go into the whole like, oh, well, it's good for hand-eye coordination. So like, there's that aspect, or it's like good for thinking because it's puzzle solving and it's you know intense gameplay. I think Elon Musk came out like a month ago, maybe, and apparently he's a big like Diablo player. Which well, if you don't know what Diablo is, you whatever, you just look it up if you care. Uh, but he's like apparently ranked really high. I don't really know. I don't care. I don't care that you have to prove it. I'm just going off what he said. And he says, "Oh, it's good because it's good to push your brain to its limits by trying to like master the skills of these like super hard difficulties of these video games." Um, I don't know how scientifically true that is. It kind of makes sense to me because we would argue the same thing again if we go into board games or like chess, where you're like, oh, it's like super mentally exhaustive to truly like compete in chess. So in the same way, whatever. There's just a lot of overlap, I think, with the things that we consider good for other mediums that we ignore in video games. And it's just a strong highlight on the negatives of video games, which I think are one, it's coded to be childish, and two, it's very easy to consume someone's time. So that just goes again to the idea of moderation. You just got to moderate your usage. But that comes to like self-discipline, but also if you're a kid, like the discipline of your parents, not letting you play all of the time, unrestricted time. Because that's what my childhood was like from, I think, yeah, eighth grade, middle school and high school was like I had no restriction on my time. That's bad. I don't think that was good for me in any way, shape, or form. Um, but it's altered, it's changed. I think I had another argument, but I've kind of I think I lost track. So you talk now because I just talk a lot.
No, I like that. I like what you said at the beginning too of like this is how you hang out with these friends that I didn't know you
Yeah,
have, and I, thought we were your only friends. But
sorry. We don't have a
um
Minecraft server. So how can
apparently
we
not.
how can we ever talk?
But I like it's akin to the idea of like when you and I would hang out with our friends, back when we actually hung out, like we would play Catan or something, right? Like we would hang out and
Yeah,
play Catan, but it wasn't about playing Catan. It was about like hanging out.
yeah,
And that was just like a thing to do, right? Like it's because we're guys and we do things. We don't just stare at each other.
right.
Um, right. Like I think it's like a more masculine thing to like have an activity. Um, and so like I think that's yeah. Like I think that makes a lot of sense. Um, to go in that direction. Um, but yeah, like that's very different than like an isolating game by yourself, which at the same time, like I just don't think there's like a version of that as much in like the board game world of like playing a game by yourself. Like you
Right.
could play solitaire. Like I can't think of another one. Um, like that's kind of
Yeah,
it. I guess there's a lot of variations of solitaire.
yeah,
And so I think that's what makes it feel different. It makes it feel isolating. Um, Yeah. So that is interesting. That kind of thought of it being a communal thing. I'm sure you've heard of there's like a board game simulator. I had
yeah.
that game and I used to play with like my brothers. We should do that. That's what we should do instead of a Minecraft server because I'd get into that.
I think I
Um,
already own it too, so that makes it easier for me to justify it.
yeah. But that like that kind of thing. I mean, then you're just playing a board game virtually, which like you can't argue against that. Like, can you? Like if you're playing a board game with your friends virtually, like
Yeah, yeah.
that's identical to playing a board game in person, except for you're doing it virtually, obviously.
This is,
Um, and
I
if you
think,
can't argue against that, then why can you argue against,
yeah.
whatever
Well, and
the video games people play is?
I think this touches on like one of the balances we're trying to strike here with Analog Catholic, which is it's not that we're anti-tech, it's we're pro good use of tech. So, okay, we're playing a virtual board game with friends, but we get to do that because of technology, because the internet exists. So instead of just kind of saying, "Hey guys, I can't wait to see you in 3 months when we're all together again for the first time in a year. What board game do you want to play?" Like, no, we have the opportunity to actually engage in that kind of recreation with each other, you know, whenever we want to. I mean, whenever we can, but theoretically, whenever we want to. Like it doesn't have to just be that one rare time where we get to actually see each other because now we've moved, we're in different parts of the country, not drastically far from each other, but still, we don't see each other every day or every week. But it, it it facilitates a continuation of the friendship. And a lot of people like they say they start friends. They like, oh, I have these good friend I met online first. I think it's true. I think it's possible. I also think you have to take all these things offline at some point. Um, so you can say like, oh man, I play games with this guy all the time. Like we just met online, and it's like, oh, we're like really close. It's like that's true, somewhat. But have you ever met each other? Like, how close actually are you to each other? Because if you're just really more of this like disembodied voice that you interact with, every so often while you play a video game, that's not really quite the same as someone you've like lived with and broken bread with and like built this deep friendship with. And then now that you're physically away from each other, you know, supplement the relationship with this opportunity to play a game together or like host a podcast together as an excuse to talk to each other. Um, yeah, I think the social aspect of it is really good, but there's another part of it that was a huge point of contention when I was growing up. I don't know how much people care about it now. I don't know if the debate's been settled. Like I said, I stepped away from video games for several years before I came back into them. Um, but the big one was, are video games art? Is video game it's playing a video, or like is a game an artistic expression? Is it art? Is it something akin to music or writing or painting or television or movies? Because people will argue that, TV and movies are artistic or they can be art, but are video games art? What are your thoughts? But I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think in the same way that like a movie can be art or cannot be, right? Like there are definitely, and I think we've talked about this a little bit. If not, maybe I've written it um, in a blog post or something for the podcast. But there are movies that were made to be like entertainment, and then there are movies that are
Yeah.
made to be art. And I think the same thing, and like the movies that were made to be art, like also serve the purpose of entertainment. And I think the same thing can be true about video games. Like I'm sure there's some beautiful animations out there, and there's
Mhm.
always an attempt to make the animations at least somewhat beautiful.
Yeah.
And so I think it's kind of subjective, but it's also I think there's you know clear differences, and you kind of know it when you see it when there's an attempt to make something beautiful versus an attempt just to distract and entertain.
Yeah. And and I think there's been a a marked shift in video game narration in those years since this was originally a debate, because it's gone from here's just a fun thing to play and do to like here's us engaging, well written story, and we present this through the lens of video gaming. And technology has gotten to the point now where you can make these like beautiful renderings, and the lighting is really good, and the mood is really good, and the mocap is really good. Because now that's a big thing too, is now you're having like just genuine actors in these video games, because you have voice actors voicing characters, and a lot of time now they'll do motion capture for the characters. So it's no longer just purely, you know, animated within the program. It's like they're capturing real actors doing things, or stunt actors, whatever they get. Um, but yeah, I think it's hard. I'm gonna name drop a game here. Because we've been replaying it. I played it a while ago, and I've been replaying it recently. And actually, my wife enjoys watching me play it. Not for the violence. If there's violence in the game, she's not a big fan of the violence. But the story she likes, the characters she likes, and the like beauty of the graphics she likes. And it's Red Dead Redemption 2, which I won't go into the whole thing like what the story's about, but it's a Western. Um, it's a prequel to Red Dead Redemption, but I hate that they named it Red Dead Redemption 2. It's not the second Red Dead Redemption, it's a prequel. Whatever. It doesn't I'm not gonna get this. That's the point is the game is phenomenal. The voice acting, the motion capture acting is phenomenal. The design, the graphics, the sound, it's so well done. They like truly put a lot of effort into this. It's so good. I like would even just straight up recommend watching. Like it's one of those games where if they just like took all the cutscenes and put them, splice them together, it'd be probably like a really good Western movie. Um, it's just that good. Like I would even recommend people just like watch a video of the game, like it being well played, and like in like the middle of some of the stories. It's just good. But like playing that again, it's just like my wife can sit there. Like it's a single player game. There's a multiplayer version, but the main part of the game is single player. I could sit there and play this single player game, and my wife could sit there and enjoy it because it's so well done, and because the narration and the overarching story is so engrossing. It's so well written. The characters are so well written. So like while I'm kind of just like goofing around doing whatever I want, 'cause it's open world, I deliberately haven't been doing the main story missions because I'm like, oh no, I know she wants to come see this and like watch this when I play. Um, so there's like I think games have reached the point now where there's some genuine artistic merit to their like the form of video games. But there's also a lot of junk. But you get that with everything, right? Some things are just made purely for entertainment. Some things are made just purely for money. But there are some things that are clearly still a labor of love that come out and that are just like, this is phenomenal. This is amazing. Um, but yeah, I think one of my things with it too is touching on what you're saying is I can play by myself. And sometimes I do. And sometimes I'm like, am I playing too much? I still try to moderate myself. I don't just only ever play video games for recreation. I like to read, I do other stuff around the house that needs to get done, all this stuff. But then I stop and I think like I barely watch television. Like almost never. I think sometimes my wife and I will watch a couple episodes of a show like, every week. So maybe like 2 or 3 nights a week we're watching one episode of a show. Um, and I almost never watch movies anymore. And if I do, it's when I know I have like a very big chunk of free time and I'll just rent something on Amazon. We don't even stream. We don't have streaming services. So I just rent movies on Prime whenever I get a free time. So I think of all the hours people in their lives that sit around just watching television for their free time or watching YouTube or watching movies, right? And I think, no, I don't think you're better because that's what you do instead of playing video games. I I think there's merit to video games as a entertaining hobby, not as a holy leisure hobby. We've talked about our holy leisure episode, but as an entertainment option. Um, and I think there's some truth to the whole like it could, mentally, if you're playing a hard game and you're just dedicating like your mental focus to it, like that could be beneficial to mental health, like intellectual like longevity, because you're training your brain, you're flexing your mind. But yeah, I like I said, I don't play all the time. I'm not here to defend myself, be like, oh, it's okay that I play video games like 10 hours a week. Like not even close to that is what I put into it. But um, yeah, I just think it's hypocritical to decry video games as a hobby or declare that they're childish or emasculating or anything like that, or just like not good, but then at the same time not also decry television and movies because in my opinion those are probably more waste of a time because you get none of the active benefits, you know. And when it comes to video games and movies and television too, because I don't give as much time to it, I'm super selective about what I do. So movies are like, I'm very strict about movies nowadays. I get recommendations a lot from people and I'm just like, if it doesn't seem like it's going to be worth my time, I'm not even going to bother watching it. Same with television shows. So same with video games. I'm very selective about video games. There's some that I play with friends because it's fun with friends, but then the ones that I'll play solo are purely ones that I think are like worth the time and like are true achievements.
Yeah, I think that's good. That's a good perspective. And I think, yeah, especially thinking of it as like this is like television, but just a different version of it.
Hmm.
Um, I know we're kind of closing in on time here. Two things
Yeah.
I want to briefly mention. First of all, when it comes to like violence and gore and stuff, I
Mm-hmm.
would say for the most part, it's kind of the same standards that we would have for like television or movies.
Yeah.
I don't know if you disagree with that or not, but if assuming those are the same standards, if you're looking for more of our thoughts on that and like how we kind of interpret what a virtuous Catholic should do in response to violence and gore and even like sex in movies, like that kind of
Yeah.
thing, you can listen to our previous podcast called Acts of Violence, and that's what we talked about. It's like
Yeah.
violence in movies and what we think about that. And I think it's very similar. I think the one difference that I would see is again like you pulling the trigger, right? Like you're pulling a trigger on a remote and
Yeah.
somebody gets shot. I remember one of my roommates when I was in college play GTA, whatever,
Yeah.
um, and you just run people over and shoot people.
Yep.
Um, there, what do you think of that? Like, how do we? I mean, it feels silly, but at the same time, it's like you're
There was a
shooting
big
people.
push. Yeah,
Like,
it's the
what do you
same
think?
thing. There was a big push in the early aughts, and even late 90s that violent video games cause violence. There's zero causation there. There's zero correlation. There's no evidence at all that playing violent video games makes you a violent person. There's a huge suspension of disbelief when you're playing, or suspension of belief when you're playing these games, right? Like when I run someone over in GTA or like, or I shoot someone in Red Dead, I'm not sitting there thinking like, oh yeah, I just love killing people, or like, yeah, this is like scratching an itch I've always had, and I just now I'm starting to think, man, maybe killing people's fun. Like, no, I don't, I think it's bad. I think violence is like real life is bad. You just, it's, yeah, it's one of those things, right? I think it's one of those things where it's kind of all or nothing. So if you're not going to tolerate video games, or sorry, if you're going to tolerate violence in any media, then don't tolerate it in any media, TV, movies, video games, music, cut it out. But if you're going to kind of sit there and say like, oh, violence in video games is somehow worse because you pulled the trigger, I don't think that's true. I don't think it's true. There's no motivation to commit violence in real life after watching video games, or like watching it happen in video games or making it happen in video games. Watching it in a movie, doing it in a video game. My disposition towards violence in real life is the same, which is I don't want it to happen. I'd rather avoid it if possible. Um, I think, yeah, I just it was a strong argument. It's a very weak argument now. You don't see it a lot, um, and I think it's because time has proven that it's just not a case. It's just not the case.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think the big example I've heard people use is like the Columbine shooters
yeah,
were big
yeah.
into
That was the
violent
big
video
one.
games. But it's also like you look at the lives of these
They were also
people.
on antidepressants, so I
Yeah,
can
there's
tell you
like, but like
that.
that's kind of the point is like there's 100 other things that are all red flags that are
Yeah,
happening. Like
exactly.
them also just shooting like cans and stuff. Like, like they were into
Yeah,
violence in other ways. So I think there's something like, yeah, there's
yeah.
something to be said about like if you are the parent of a child who is disposed to like torturing animals, it's like maybe we hold off on sort of these realistic video games. But like,
Yeah,
that's just parenting, right? It's like looking at your child and trying to balance like exceptions and when you think they're like what you think they need to develop into a virtuous human being. And I think, yeah, I don't think it should be a hard no on it. But again, I think we apply kind of similar rules to what we would to a television show or a movie, as you can listen to in Acts of Violence, a previous
yes.
podcast episode.
And I think in going off the vein of in our previous episode, Osham Sanksham about holy leisure, it's about moderation. It's about moderation. I don't think you, as a Catholic man or woman, should feel guilty for wanting to play video games or liking video games. I think you just need to have the right mindset you have with other media consumption. Moderation. It's like I was saying, it's an entertainment hobby. It's not a leisurely hobby. So don't let it be your one thing. But it's like if you're gonna play an hour, you know, at a time, well, we need to hold like how many hours per week you should be playing video games. I don't really know, but yeah, just don't feel guilty if it's like Saturday night, you don't got much going on. You're like, I'm gonna play this really intense. I'm gonna play The Witcher 3 or Red Dead Redemption 2, right? And I'm just gonna get really into the story and play it for like 2.5 hours, and then, you know, that's it. Like, great. That's like watching a 2.5 hour movie. You wouldn't call that a waste of life, but for some reason, if you do video game, right? There's a good thing, but it's also different if you're doing 2.5 hours of like a really dumb game that has no artistic meaning outside of just being stupid, right? Again, different mindsets. But real quick, Ben, off the cuff, favorite video game of all time. Go.
It's got to be that Spyro. I don't know what it's called. It might just be called Spyro, but the original one.
The very first Spyro. I love
I
it.
think so. Yeah.
Okay. My favorite game, Fallout New Vegas. There we go. Very stereotypical, if you know who I am, that would be my favorite video game. But I think it's excellent. Close second, Pokemon Crystal. Love that game too. Okay. I think that's it for right now. I'm Rob,
And I'm Ben,
and this has been
analog Catholic.